Hey everybody, welcome back to Trainz Model Railroad Edition, where we are working on the Needles sub. Since the last video, I've done a little bit of work on the track arrangement that I was talking about through here, so I first want to touch on that before we get into our time lapse. And just so you guys are aware, I have partially moved already. The first half of my move has been completed. I am now staying with my mother and father-in-law in a spare bedroom, so I'm set up in the corner. I don't know how the audio is going to be, so there might be some interruptions, so just bear with me for a little bit while I do that. So first thing to look at here with this new track arrangement is this corner, and it's still pretty tight, but it's not as bad as it was. And in fixing that, I had to adjust a whole lot of tracks. So this whole area has pretty much been revamped. As you can see here, I also took the siding for the oil. What is this? Texaco? I always forget the name of this. Let me look at this paperwork. The Shell Oil Refinery. I took this siding and originally it was connected right here to the main track. I drew out the tail a little tiny bit to connect over here. The only problem with doing that is that it could only be switched only from this track. And I think this is a station track, because I think we put in another station down here. So that's the only issue that I see with that. But in doing that, I also had to adjust the crossovers through here. So this is a new crossover, as well as this. Originally the crossovers were both over here on the bend, and that was partially what was causing that turn to be so tight. So this one pretty much just stayed where it was. I also had to work on this, our cement siding here. Again, because of the way that Trainz actually does the turnouts on bends, a lot of times they don't look so smooth. So this was a little bit tricky to get to work. I'm kind of happy with it. I think it's better than it was. But I had to adjust the switch tracks down here as well. I think you'll remember that this track right here came down straight, and then this track connected with a junction somewhere over here. So that had to be adjusted, and this switch, this used to just be like a runaround track. So I had to add this switch in here. I think previously it was somewhere down here, and it just didn't look right. I had to move it. If I put it over here, just due to where the spline points were, it just didn't look smooth, and the junctions were not, it just didn't look right. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers what I had to do to actually make this work. There is some design flaws I'm seeing as I'm doing this. But overall, I think it'll be functional enough. It's just a small model railroad, so it really, it doesn't have to be perfect. So yeah, so that's the adjustments today. Like I said, we are gonna work our way down this way. I think we're gonna do some work on the scrap plant. We're gonna add a couple of roads in here. Oh, another thing that I had to omit from the original track plan is that there's supposed to be a crossing here. I don't think I'm gonna be able to cut that in. If I can, I will. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. But yeah, so I guess with that said, let's jump into the time lapse. Surprise, I was able to actually cut in that grade crossing. It's not exactly where it would normally be, or where it was supposed to be in the track plan. In the track plan, it was supposed to be closer to the cement plant than where I was able to cut it in. But I got it, and I think it looks cool. You'll see in a minute as I start adding some more details and the actual crossing gates and stuff like that. It actually works really nicely in this corner, and kind of works as a scenic divider in between the scenes on the right and the scenes on the left, because these are really supposed to be things that are miles and miles apart, not such on top of each other as they are in the model railroad world. So to have something that can visually divide the scene helps so much. The oil refinery does that, and just having this road kind of come in also does that, and it's a very nice nice way to draw the eye right into that corner and around the bend, and it just adds a lot of visual interest in my opinion. Lots of really nice assets here using those Eshoto roads that I was talking about in the last episode. They're a little bit difficult to work with on the occasion, just trying to figure out which direction you have to stretch it out so that the road is, the words are not upside down or on the wrong side of the road. And they also tend to float a little tiny bit, but I like them. I think that they look really great. So I'm going to keep using those. I think I'm going to replace the roads in my P&B route with more of these Eshoto roads. But yeah, so getting into here, I'm getting started on the Scrapyard, and I don't think that there is a name. Let me look at the paperwork here. Oh, Komo's Scrapyard, yeah. So getting started on that, and man, I love Scrapyards for some reason. Just the amount of details that you could put in there and the type of junk that you can kind of half bury and do all kinds of cool stuff with it. There's a lot of freedom with it, in my opinion, with the type of assets that you can use. You can pretty much throw anything that you want in there, even the kitchen sink. Zing! All right, that's enough for my bad jokes. So bringing in some of the tracks, bringing in some of these fences here. This is the fence that I'm using is corrugated fence. Keep Out, I think, is the title of the asset. Actually, if you take notice in the lower right of your screen, you'll see a little KUID, K-U-I-D thing. If you pay attention to that, it'll tell you what assets I'm using, the asset ID number. How do you say that? Is it a KUID? K-U? I don't know. I don't know where they came up with that name. It's interesting. But I think it was one of the Jointed Rail guys left me a comment on an episode a few episodes back and mentioned putting that in so that you guys could actually tell what assets I'm actually using, and you don't have to ask me in the comments section so many questions about which is which and where and so on and so forth. But yeah, so here I am just throwing in some of these details, pretty much anything that I could find. If you look up on the download station derelict as your keyword, pretty much anything in there. I believe it was all made by Dinosaurus Redundicus. I've mentioned this before. Really, really great assets, really cool stuff. Just rusted out cars and garbage bags and just scrap metal and stuff like that. This is the kind of stuff that if I get into asset creation, I want to make more of. I'd like to see more scrap metal piles and that kind of thing that can kind of be used around piles of wood. There are some of those assets out there, but they're a little bulky and clunky. I think they could be a little bit better. But yep, coming in with some of the ground paint, ground texture, scenery texture, I always forget what it's called. Just trying to blend it in, add some dirt patches, while still keeping the sand in there, because the sand is, obviously we're in a desert environment, but having never been out to the west, I don't know that there is dirt underneath all of that. I would imagine that in some areas there's gonna be some kind of like muddy, soily, earthy stuff underneath instead of just sand all over the place. So I tried to include that in there and rough up the scene a little tiny bit. At the very least, it makes it look a lot more dirty than it probably really actually is. And again, just using a whole variety of assets here. I like to roll them and bury them in the ground a little bit here and there. I find that helps them blend more into the scenery and become part of it rather than just an accessory just sitting on the surface. So if you could take something and kind of bury it into the ground a little bit or roll it, it looks more naturally strewn about. And one thing that I was keeping in mind when I was doing this scrapyard is a lot of times, at least the scrapyards that I've seen here up in the Northeast, they try to keep things separated. So like all of the metal might be on one side, all of the garbagey stuff might be on one other side, miscellaneous things will be on one other side. They kind of group things according to what it is. So they'll have a big pile of scrap metal in a couple different areas, or anything that has metal. Anything that has wood will be in a different area, or is mostly wood. So they tend to group those things up, and that's what I was trying to keep in mind when I was throwing these details down. So yeah, now here I'm trying to connect up the scenery along the road and just bring it all together so that it's not just kind of thrown around in there. I always like throwing train cars in here just to see what the scene looks like. And then I reevaluate it like you see I'm doing here. I kind of fly around a little bit and just make sure that I like the scene. If I'm missing anything or if something looks a little bit off, that kind of helps me see things as if it's more real life. So yeah, just throwing in some signage around here. I'm about to put down the grade crossings. The grade crossings are off of Jointed Rail's website. They are the safe train crossings. Oh, I put those in already, but can somebody tell me about these relay boxes? I never know which way to face them or what their purpose is exactly. I always see them along grade crossings, but I never have any idea where they're supposed to be oriented and what their purpose is. And if anybody out there, if any of you know exactly how they're supposed to be set up, that would be a big help for me to make it a little bit more realistic in my maps. But yeah, going on over to here, just trying to close out this seam, hide this corner seam between the two backdrops. I thought a few tanks would complete the scene and kind of like a little dirt road or gravel road. And I think it does kind of help bring the scene together and hide that whole seam a little bit better so that it blends a little bit more nicely from the Shell oil refinery into Barstow yard. And I think that's about all I got to talk about for now. There won't be any cinematics, unfortunately, but enjoy the rest of this song, and I'll be with you for the outro in just a moment. Guys, that was a cool little time lapse. I had a lot of fun building this scrapyard here. One of my favorite things to build, actually. I don't know why. There's just lots of little details and stuff that I could put down. So that was a lot of fun. Not as much progress as I had expected to make, but that's okay. I'm going to start pre-recording the next episode where we're going to move on to Barstow Yard here, and we'll make some more progress. But let's talk about this scene really quick. Sorry, you guys can probably... Something happened with my computer in between when I recorded the intro and now, and all of my fans are running at like 100%, so it sounds like a freaking jet engine underneath me. I don't know what's going on. The temperature seems to be fine. I don't know. I gotta open up my machine and take a look, but it is awfully noisy right now. But yeah, so this scene here, I'm pretty happy with it. It's gonna look a lot better once we cut in the fascia and dip this out, because right now it just looks like an incomplete scene with all the tile work, I guess you would call it, the grid underneath. But once that's gone, this is going to look really cool. And once we get some proper switch stands in here and signage and stuff like that, some more details, that is going to look really, really cool. I'm pretty excited for how this is coming out. I'm glad I was able to cut in this this grade crossing here. I think that's going to be pretty cool. Now, one thing that I was worried about is where I'm going to put the triggers to set the crossings up. Set off the crossings. I think if I put the triggers here, and then over here, and maybe one here, that should be fine. I was worried about this crossover, how that would work. Like I said, I haven't tested this out. Clearly, it's not even hooked up. But I think that's going to work out just fine. We'll play with that a little bit. One thing I am worried about is the traffic stopper, because if I put a traffic stopper here, and then I put another one over here, there's a chance that cars are going to get stuck in the middle. So I don't know if there's a one-way traffic stopper that'll only stop traffic going like this direction instead of this direction, or if you can make the traffic stopper, if I could put it in the middle and just expand the radius at which it affects the traffic. I'm not sure. Like I said, I hate using these traffic stoppers. They're a real pain in the neck to use, but we'll make it work. So yeah, I'm gonna get to pre-recording the next episode right away, actually, because in a couple of weeks I'm not gonna have access to my PC, so I need to have some stuff pre-recorded for you guys, so there's not a huge gap in content. That's why there was no video last week, was because I moved and I just didn't have time to pre-record anything. But next episode we will do Barstow Yard, and I don't know how much of that we're gonna get done, but hopefully we can get the whole thing done. That would be pretty cool. That would be a nice episode. All right, so that's it, guys. Thanks for watching today. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.